Hey folks, Quill18 here, and welcome to another episode of Let's Play Kerbal Space Program, the experimental patch version 1.1. As always, some things may break, some things may be different from what you see at release, but overall, things are going awesome in this little playthrough. Completely vanilla, no mods whatsoever. In our last video, we ended up doing a flyby. Our plan was to do a flyby of the moon. We decided that is not enough. We are also going to fly by Minmus. And despite the fact that we didn't have a scientist to reset experiments, and I think I missed a couple here and there, we came back with like 400 science, 400 plus science. We're currently sitting at 423 over here, so we've got a lot of things that we can unlock. In fact, very rapidly, we're going to start to hit the limit where we can't research these techs at all until we upgrade the Science Center. But we've got a while to go before that happens. So I'm going to be quite excited to be unlocking these electrics right now. This level was the one that gave us some solar panels, which will be really important for our next mission, as well as some lights, which look awesome, therefore we must have them. It's also got a really good rechargeable battery pack there. I'm not a big fan of the battery packs that attach on the outside. They look cool. They look amazing. That these things here with like the little batteries, that is brilliant, and it is so Kerbal, but it is kind of a pain in the butt to design around since they kind of poke out and they cause atmospheric drag and all kinds of things, where these here, these inline ones, are much more practical. Anyway, we'll unlock that. Miniaturization, notice we cannot get the next level. Miniaturization, I think we can live without right now. They're quite handy if you are going to go and make some of the smaller probe things and want to make a really tight little compact thing, but I don't think we need that right now. Space exploration is nice because we can get more science from the press mat barometer. The hitchhiker storage container is also incredibly handy for actually bringing tourists to space. It is, unless I'm mistaken, this is 2.5 meters though. Makes it a little awkward to fit into our production stack without getting a little bit more of the heavier rocketry, for example. We would need these engines over here, plus the fatter fuel tanks, although we have some of those unlocked. Still, we want more science. The press mat barometer is an excellent way for guests to get more science points. So, do we want to unlock general construction? It does unlock struts, which are pretty important. Also, we've needed the launch stability enhancer a few times now, so actually I'm going to be quite happy to grab that. It's also got the Mark 1 crew cabin, which is only 1.25 meter diameter, as opposed to the 2.5 meter. Fits 2 people in there, which is actually really good for our tourism right now. So actually, I think what we'll do is we'll probably knock off a few of those tourism missions, because we will need a few more bucks to get the next big mission. So I do want to go and do a really big space mission soon, but not quite yet. We can do cool plane stuff, but I don't think that's the time. The small inline reaction wheel we will need for some more stuff, but if we get that, I'll only be able to unlock one thing on this next level. And I don't know if we need that. These are the tiny engine parts, and these are the big engine parts. These are 2.5, and these are, I don't know how big this level is. It's like 0.75 meters. I'm actually not sure how big it is, but we can live without this unless we're making satellites. Let's see here. Oh, some of these construction modules are actually pretty darn cool. I think I'm going to go for the advanced construction, actually. Some of these nose cones, the fairings actually could be really useful. We're going to grab some of that stuff. So now we can either grab one of these other 90s, and I'm tempted to go for the heavy rocketry. Very tempting. Although with the tri-coupler, we may be able to live without it for a little bit longer. So you know what? I'm just going to grab these 2 base levels here. They unlock some cool stuff, and that'll be fine. So that's how we'll spend our science, which is great. We have upgraded our mission control, so we can take up to 7 technologies. I just realized, my apologies, folks. I had Kerbal Space Program muted. There we go. So we have a mission to ferry tourists to their destination. Ooh, a rescue mission. Gather science data from around Kerbin. That we obviously want, because this is something we're sort of kind of going to do for free anyway. You could return something worth like 0. That would be okay too, and that would complete it. But we actually have like other things we can science legitimately in space. Mission to orbit the moon. Notice we don't have a mission to fly by. We've actually just like burned past that. We did it without a mission, but it's probably okay. Science data from the surface of Minmus. I'm going to take that. We're a little far from landing on it, but we might do it. How high do we have to be to test this Juno engine? Actually, that is really good height. Activate the part through the staging sequence when all test conditions are met. That's a little bit annoying, because I think this means we can't have this engine already running. But this speed is and height is very achievable by, say, a space plane. You know what? Let's go ahead and make a space plane to test that out. That's going to be fine. In flight over Kerbin. That's kind of awkward, but not impossible. At launch site. Oh, that's an easy mission to complete. So yeah, we'll do a few of those because we could use a few more bucks. Let me go. Let me do the kickback booster now. There's something you said. Okay, there's something to be said. Instead of actually completing the test, because as long as the test is available, we can use this as part of our construction. But I think the cost is increased, so it's not really all that practical. I think I'll just go and complete the test right away, and we'll see what else we might get unlocked. So, oh my god, they're super long. Bonk. There we go. Get it there. Oh my god, does it bother anyone else that the text isn't the same? No, it is the same. Never mind, I'm just dreaming. I thought they were going in different directions, but I am just nuts. So we're going to do the same trick where we just take all the fuel out of this. Shabam. Therefore, when we hit go, it's not going to go. We're going to launch this into nothingness. And bam, and that completes our little test mission. You know, you can hear the sounds, just making sure all the valves work and everything like that. It's a perfectly legitimate way to test your parts. We're going to recover this vessel. Excellent, free money. Because we didn't even spend anything to build the ship, because we recovered 100% of it. We spent nothing, no money on fuel. We recovered all the components, therefore it was completely free. Okay, so we've got a mission to test that Juno engine. Actually, that'll be quite cool. I'm going to go and throw that in. Let's get something that looks kind of awesome. We're going to do that. Because it looks cool. You can use the Mark 1 command pod. The Mark 1 cockpit's actually a lot heavier, but it has a much higher crash tolerance. You can see it takes a crash of up to 40 meters per second, as opposed to only 14 with the Mark 1 command pod. So the cockpit is better when you're landing. If you accidentally bump the nose, it's less likely to self-destruct instantaneously. We need to provide fuel over here, and for a jet engine, all you need is liquid fuel. So we can do that. The thing is, again, some of these caps are really adorable. Again, we do have to test. This is kind of awkward. This Juno engine, we have to be at a certain height to test it. So I'm actually wondering about going with a pair of these bad boys. I think that's exactly what we're going to do. Can I use, for structural, just some sort of like generic, just fuselage. This is like really light, and it's just going to be a certain amount of like body space for us. And we're going to double that up like that. And then I'm going to grab some wings. Boop-doo. Swept wings. I guess that's fine. They're not that sweepy. No, it's fine. So we're going to mirror that. They're pretty sweepy. And what we're going to do is we're going to put the liquid fuel tank, let's say underneath it. You can, if you turn off the snapping, you can put it underneath quite well. But actually, I think I kind of like it built into the wing like this. I think that's, I don't know. What do you think? I think that's a cool look. Maybe we'll put it a little closer to the body. Something like that. Oh, it's got to go a little further back. Yeah, it's a little iffy, but it'll work. And then we can put the... Oh, yeah, it's small. Do we have, like, smaller fuel tanks? No, not right now. So everything's going to look a little bit silly. But that's okay. Mirror that. So we've got an air intake in front of both. And then we can put the Juno engine behind each one. Oh, right. But then... What am I going to do? Fly with only one? Does this have to be activated? I wonder if I can test. It's kind of a weird contract. Okay, I'm changing my mind about the design. I take this. I'm going to stick this. Oh, I can't because of the air intake. Yeah, this is all kinds of awkward with the parts that we've got. Okay, new design. Don't save. We are instead going to use the Mark 1 command pod. And the reason we're going to do that is because it's actually really nice and convenient to stick an air intake in front. Boom, just like that. I will go ahead and use one structural fuselage, because if the plane's a little bit longer, it'll be slightly more convenient. And then we'll use, this is way more fuel than we need. You know what? We'll use just one of these small tanks. And to save weight and money, I'm just going to remove the oxidizer, and that's going to be okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw a Juno engine in the back. Then I'm going to do something crazy sauce. We're going to stick another tiny little fuel tank on top. Oops, yeah, don't mirror. I know, it's madness! Madness! What is he doing? Well, I'm actually not 100% sure. Do we... I don't have the miniaturization thing, so I can't actually do a smooth switch from one size to another, which is going to leave this pretty ugly and derpy looking. I don't think this other engine actually even has to be enabled. And honestly, I'm not sure that we couldn't just count this one here as part of our test, but let's go ahead and test a separate one. And we're going to use this wing here rather than a swept one. These are going to be a little bit better at low speed. I don't know if that's exactly simulated that way in Kerbal Space Program, but in reality, straight wings, better at low speed. Swept wings, handle high speeds best. And then we need good sort of tail fin. Those are too big. These Delta Deluxe, I think, are a fair bit smaller. No, I'm wrong. I don't even know how much of a control surface we need in the back. I could put them up here if they're getting in the way. Oh, now we're looking awesome. Guys. We'll use the... There we go. Shut up, it's awesome. It's awesome. Oh my god, that's terrible. What an abomination. How am I going to do this when I'm happy? 'Cause, first of all, let's figure out what is our center of mass versus our center of lift. You want the center of lift to be slightly behind the center of mass. It's going to change when we add some extra winglets. Alright, let's just make this longer. No problem. Add some more structural fuselage, which is lightweight. And we're going to use, we'll use canards instead, which is to say we put the winglets kind of in the front. Now, we're going to give them control surfaces or anything like that? I guess we sort of kind of want to. All these are really annoying to use. Alright, these winglets will have to do. So we're going to do that. We're going to move this a little further back. Again, the center of lift just behind the center of mass. Ideally, oh, we're going to need to figure out wheels, because that's going to affect things. The further out your wheels are, the more stable it's going to be on the runway. The downside is that oriented correctly? Yeah. If they're this far back, you can have a hard time sort of tipping upwards. You actually want them a little closer to the center of mass, but it is going to be a lot easier on your life if they're further apart. If you ever end up trying to launch a plane here and it wobbles a lot on the runway, a lot of times the key is to just spread them a little further apart. Well, we might give this a go and see how that works. I want to go and use just the bottom engine first, which should be better aligned. That looks okay. We don't have a rudder. We don't necessarily need one. But it's probably a good idea if we did, right? Can we do something like this? Is this crazy? It's super crazy. Let's see what happens if we go without a rudder. What could possibly go wrong? Who's flying this thing? It's gonna have to be, we need a pilot, so it's gonna have to be Valentina. We need a pilot because we need some SAS. So, we're gonna go ahead and attempt to launch this. SAS on, full throttle. So we'll have our mission ready. Kerbin flying. Yeah, I actually don't think we need the second engine. I think I may have designed a derpy looking ship for no particular reason. There you go, we got our control surfaces. Oh, we're gonna turn off the SAS here because it's using it a wee bit inappropriately for right now. Road is a little bit bumpy. I don't think we've got enough ground clearance. So let's go ahead and revert to the space hangar. If anything terrible happens on liftoff here, I will go and revert because these are just computer simulations at this point. These are not real flights for Valentina. So if we do this, oops, we need to X that up and show me the center of mass. Something like that. Now I'm a little worried that it might still be spread out enough. That'd be okay. The other thing as well is this bad boy. Should give us a little more clearance. Like this. Hopefully. Still good. I'm actually wondering, I'd take that off. We might be able to complete the mission just like that. And actually that gives us a great place to put the tail fin as well. Hang on. Let's try, because I don't know. It says activate or stage it. I think it just has to be active at that height, but I'm not positive. winglet. And check the... There we are. Something like that. Actually, with the amount of space I'm having now, I'm thinking I'm going to go... Hold on. Sorry. One more change. I'm going to switch from the canard sort of setup. I'm going to go for a more traditional wings in front setup. I think we'll actually be quite a bit happier with that. Let me get these down there as elevators. And yeah, our center of lift is correctly behind the center of mass, kind of sort of regardless. And that's because I have a lot of weight in the back as a result of the fuel tank being where it is. In fact, our center of mass may be too far back, which is not usually the problem. All right, let's give this another go. Hey, you know what would be nice? If the rudder was in the right place. There we are. Okay. And go. So it looks like, I mean, it'll be green. I wonder if we can right-click and do a test. Oh, there's a run test option, so that might be fine. And, perfect, excellent, wonderful liftoff. SAS on, lots of stability, feels very comfortable to fly. Just brilliant. So our speed's good, we just got to get above 2 kilometers, and we are climbing. I'll see if I can't set an angle of pitch of about 10 degrees. Our speed is still climbing right now. Often when you are flying an actual plane, what you do for your climb is you actually like look to get a speed here. Like for example, if I just keep pitching up, at some point my speed's going to start dropping. But there's this point where it sort of balances itself. I mean, I'm sort of glossing over a lot of issues, like best rate of climb versus best speed of climb. Wait, what are the... Best angle of climb versus best speed of climb versus different things. But you see, we got a nice balance here. If we pitched up any more, we'd slow down, and that would hurt a lot of things in our flight. If we pitched down, we'd speed up, but that means we probably wouldn't be climbing as fast. I don't know if this is actually my best rate of climb here, but it's got to be pretty close. So let's see what happens. We're about to cross 2,000, and I can run test. Excellent! Oh, that's way simpler than trying to throw the second engine on there. Cool, and that's it. You know what I did forget, though, and I really meant to do? I really wanted to put a parachute on here, because now I have to actually land it like a proper plane. But I will tell you something that's quite nice right here. I've been using in my standard Kerbal runs is I usually play with the FAR mod, Ferrum Aerospace mod, which redoes the aerodynamics to be a fair bit more realistic, but it makes it a lot harder, and it is so much more difficult to make a good controllable plane if you're using Ferrum Aerospace. Whereas this was actually simple. Once I realized that, hey, maybe I don't need to put 2 engines on here, this was pretty easy mode. Whoosh. Whee! Let's bring this home. Now, if we put, some extra boosters or something like that, it might be possible to technically go suborbital with this, especially with swept wings. I mean, we don't have Rapier engines or anything like that, but it might be possible. Like orbital, no. Single stage to orbit, definitely not. But suborbital, maybe. In which case, this becomes potentially, if we replace one of these fuselage bits with the 2-person module, we might actually be able to use this as a passenger plane for people who just want suborbital stuff. But I think it's just going to be easier to just go this way. Anyway, lovely little plane. And if we're really good, we might be able to land on the runway. Let me go ahead and bleed off a little speed. I was going to call this an S-turn, but this is more of like a, I don't know, a real Z. Whoops. Hang on. There we go. A little too sharp. Wasn't really moving prograde anymore. I'm going a little bit backwards, hovery, whatever. Okay, there we go. My engine's completely killed. If we're really good, we can land on a runway. This is a bumpy runway, though, because we haven't upgraded it. So we'll see. Mostly got no thrust whatsoever. Yeah, that mission is complete. 22,000 for that. Well, I think we're going to land on the beach instead of the runway. And you know what? I call it, whoa, good enough for Kerbal work. Oh, came in a little crooked there. I wasn't expecting to land on the beach, which is why I wasn't really aligned. Let's go ahead and slam on the brakes. So we mostly recovered the plane. Hey, it could have been worse. Planes in Kerbal are really fun. They're quite a bit more challenging. The planes are a lot harder than spaceships, but they're really fun when they go. We got a lot of rescue Kerbin jobs. Actually, that might be really good. We could use more Kerbals. And these are really difficult missions and often very tricky to do. So why don't we go ahead and do one of these? I know I promised last episode. I didn't promise. I talked about last episode about, going to another planet. But we got some great contracts to do here. They all award a fair amount of money, pretty much an even amount. This one's slightly more for some reason. I suspect, low Kerbin orbit. Are they all low Kerbin? Yeah, so it's probably all about the same. So this one's worth a tiny bit more. So let's go ahead and accept one of these rescue contracts. It'll get us to do our very first encounter, which is fun. All right, take a peek at the tracking station. And there is our target over here, Journey's debris, orbiting, periapsis of 76,000 and an apoapsis of 88,000. So yeah, definitely very low orbit, which does give us a little bit less of a margin to work with to plan out the encounter, since actually encountering something from launch is very tricky in Kerbal Space Program. You can calculate it if you know exactly how long it takes you to go to orbit, in which case you plan your launch until the thing's like exactly right place overhead in the sky. That's a lot trickier as a Kerbal. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to plan to launch in such a way that we are going to be ahead of Journey's debris. And we will launch into a higher orbit, which means we orbit the planet slower, and then Journey should just catch up to us in a revolution or two, and then we can just, like, home and transfer down to them. Something of that nature. So, we need a ship to do this, and we do have some ships already designed, of course. And can we reuse them? Yeah, absolutely. But honestly, like, the Theodorpson would be fine, but I think we can just make a better one. So my idea is, I'm going to take this command pod, and I'm going to have no one in it. We could do a double command pod job, but I'm going to put no one in command pod and just have a probe core, the Probodobenine over here, handle that. It's got SAS built in. It's just basic stability assist, that's it, but it will work. And that's going to be our rescue craft right over here. We're going to make sure that we've got probably just one parachute is going to be sufficient, because it's the only thing that is going to be coming home over here. Yeah, I think that's true. We're going to go ahead and get ourselves a heat shield for the return. And that, I think, will be fine. Because the Probodobenine does need power, and we might be in space a few different revolutions, we are going to throw some solar panels on over here, so that we are going to be able to stay out in space long enough. I think the one parachute's still going to be more than sufficient for that. Okay, I like that top structure. And then we can just build a relatively simple launch vehicle. We'll go ahead and, because we will need some maneuvering in space, we'll go ahead and incorporate the Terrier in here to make sure that we've got the Delta V to maneuver once we are in space, and then the actual ascent phase will just be something like, just mostly something like this. We will give it some cool lights though, because we know things get dark over there and lights are awesome. Square ones? Are these just smaller square ones? Oh, they're sort of roundish. Maybe what we'll do is do something like that. Maybe I'll just go like three-way symmetry. And then I'm going to take the rotate tool, grab you, and just rotate you. Your part of your job is to shine on the spaceship itself. I know that's like sort of like less useful from one point of view, but it means we'll be able to see the spaceship well in space. And that will be cool. It does use a little bit of power, but again, we've got some solar panels. And hey, the lights can shine on the solar panels and keep us charged. That totally doesn't violate any laws of physics, right? I'm going to go, and in the interest of just making sure we've got enough, since we don't have any Delta V calculations, we'll almost certainly be overkilling this design. But, so actually, I should have used the same launch vehicle as our previous mission, which we know actually had crazy amounts of Delta V. You know what? This is going to be fine. What's our total weight right now? We're at 14.8. And if I bring up my little calculator, oh yeah, we're going to have, I mean, not a ton of thrust to take off. 1.2 thrust to weight ratio. So it'll be a little on the sluggish side to take off, but it should still be mostly okay. Technically, anything above 1 works, but of course the problem is if you are, the more like of your thrust that goes just to fighting off that first, 1.0 of fighting gravity, the less of your fuel is actually being converted into making you go faster. I could make this lighter, but I don't know. I think I'm pretty satisfied with this, and it seemed to be okay. So we're just going to call this one Rescue 1. And again, I'll make sure there's no one in the driver's seat, and indeed there's not. So this should work fine. Does it need fins? I don't think so. It's not that long, and it's got the gimbal at the bottom. I suspect this will have very little problem keeping the correct attitude on the way up. Check the staging. So we need the engine to light when we detach it. That's going to be fine, and then we'll give a little pause there, and then you'll detach and come home. And I think that's sufficient. We're not running remote tech or anything like that, so we don't need an antenna to get our probe core to work. And what I need to do is wait until this is our target. Yeah, because right now it'd be on exactly the wrong side of the planet. And I do want to launch ahead of it because I'm planning on launching into a slightly higher orbit than this and then letting it catch up. We have to remember it's going to take us a while to actually get to space. So I think somewhere around here, actually, I think we'll be well ahead. I could probably wait a little bit longer, but I'm not confident here. So that's good. Stability's on. Go. Woo! Yeah, at 1.2, which is almost exactly what we're at. It's going to be a little on the sluggish side, but it's going up. And then, of course, as we burn fuel, it will get more and more and more thrust to weight. So I'm okay with this. I think it's a great design. You can hit L, turn the lights on. Oh, it's not L. I thought it was. There you go. Turn the lights on. I mean, a bit of waste right now. Wait until we get into space. Okay, I like it. So as per usual, we will... Oh, here's a question. Is our guy orbiting correctly? Yes. He is orbiting correctly because he's going into the darker area over here. Still have to get used to the new visuals there. So he is orbiting. If we're looking straight down, he's orbiting counterclockwise, which is the way that we will be orbiting. Because looking straight down from the North Pole, counterclockwise means towards the east. So you're always facing the sunrise. And so that's what we're doing here. We are turning towards the east. Doing our gravity turn. And, okay, we're going to be a little more flat than I need to be, so I'm just going to pull a little bit on the left side of our prograde marker here to make our ascent a little steeper. Because, again, my rule of thumb is somewhere around, like, be at the 45-degree mark at around 15,000. And then you can adjust. You could go a little flatter than that or a little steeper than that. In this case, we know we want to go a little higher than the normal sort of minimal orbit that we're looking for. So I want to be a little steeper. Steeper is also an easier ascent. It's often less fuel efficient because you are having to go higher. Like you need more fuel to get into your higher orbit, obviously. But if you're going to a higher orbit, then the steeper ascent is a perfectly fine way to do it. The advantage of this is you do leave the thicker air a little bit faster if you're going more straight up. So there we go. So we have a slightly slower gravity turn than I sometimes aim for, and that's going to be okay. Because we're hitting 45 degrees about 25 kilometers instead of 15 kilometers. So maybe I was a little too conservative, but that's all right. This little pink marker, this is the direction directly towards my target. Unless I'm mistaken, I'm pretty sure. Oh, I'm just realizing I don't have some of my docking assist stuff. So the Terrier engine is a lot less efficient in the atmosphere, but the air is thin enough. Okay, so now our apoapsis is 80. I'm going to go ahead and just flatten ourselves out at this point. It's still going to increase our apoapsis, but not quite as quickly. So we'll still end up with a higher orbit, which is still my plan, because we are a fair bit ahead. So my plan is to get it about 100K. But by burning towards the horizon, I'm adding a little bit less apoapsis, and more than anything, I'm just making our orbit a little flatter, which means we're basically starting the circularization at this point. And ideally, you minimize the kind of effort you have to put into any of these burns by just getting it exactly right the first time. It's a smooth curve from launch to arrival. If you did it really perfectly, you literally would arrive at your apoapsis the very second that you circularize. But in this case, that's pretty good. So I won't play the maneuver yet because some of the math will change as we leave the atmosphere, which happens now. Excellent. And we're going to add a maneuver here and just stretch you out. I wonder, I guess we could theoretically plan an encounter as is, but that's not my plan. Now the arrows here indicate like where you will potentially meet. And I guess I don't actually want to circularize. I want to end up with a tangent point somewhere. So a point where our two orbits are the same, which seems to be around here. So we could sort of expect at some point on an orbit, if this is catching up to me a little bit on each orbit, because it's generally in the lower one, it's going to catch up a little on each orbit, eventually probably here, but somewhere, we will get pretty damn close. It is going to take a fair bit of delta V for us to complete this, but we should have it. So let me go ahead and face towards the maneuver. Estimated burn is 20 seconds. We're going to be there at the node in a minute, so I want to start the burn at about 20 seconds remaining. A little bit more. There we go. Start now, just to make sure the numbers are accurate, and they are. Take a little second to adjust. Oh, now we can turn our lights on. Boop. Excellent. The lights are really going to help us when we switch control to the other Kerbal to more easily see the spaceship, especially if we're doing a rendezvous on the dark side. Join the dark side. We have cookies. Alright, so you can see our actual orbit, which is the blue line here, is going to bulge out and reach onto the other side. And good enough, considering I didn't necessarily plan a very precise operation here. So now, if we just fast forward, we're not in a much higher orbit. So it's not catching up by that much on every revolution. So it's actually probably going to take multiple revolutions before it really catches up enough for us to make the final maneuver. But I didn't want to boost myself into a very high orbit because that would have been fuel inefficient. So my goal was just to do it as little as possible, but then to get there. We're in very close orbits, and yeah, you see, especially as we go up here, it's definitely, because it's taking a shortcut around the planet. So you can see on our next pass, we'll actually be quite close. I mean, not necessarily close enough. What if I said over here, hey, let me add a maneuver and bring, burn retrograde to bring my orbit down. Would that help us match? Not quite. So it'll be interesting to see exactly what happens on the next pass. Because we could adjust to meet here by dropping our orbit. Or we'll just meet here at some point. And every time you pass, the pink is the next one, and the orange, or sorry, maybe it's the other way around. Orange is the next one. And pink is the one after that. And maybe we're not going to get much better. Alright, it's a relatively small burn. Just getting the two orange arrows to come a little closer together. What's our distance over here? Still 14 kilometers, which is a little on the rough side. Oh, and then it gets bigger. Alright, 14 kilometers seems... And that's not super close, but it's not a big burn, and then we can make another adjustment as we get a little bit closer. I'm going to put up with it. We actually just passed the node, and it's also a really short burn. So we didn't do it exactly the right time, but that's okay. We can still meet our goal. It's going to drift a little bit. There we go. So now we're scheduled to come... Oh, it's 21. We can make another fine-tune somewhere along the way. 24, 15, 14, 14.4. Oh, how's our inclination? Ooh, hold on. I should have fixed that first. Descending node is over there. Let's actually make the change perhaps at the descending node. Well, I mean, I suppose we could have done more than one, but yeah. We're actually coming in a little below them, so we need to make an adjustment here to bring our orbit closer that way, and then we go. Then, if we combine that... $19, 13, 17. I mean, it's not... I shouldn't be doing the burns all here. This is all pretty rough. $13 kilometers apart. And that's a pretty big burn. I honestly think I can probably just do a direct burn from over here and call it mostly good. What I'll do is I'll fix our inclination, and then I'll see about just closing it just hard mode. We should, I believe, have enough delta V to accomplish all that. We'll see what happens. Warp to next maneuver. Power's still good. We don't have much in the way of batteries, but we do have solar power, so that's going to be fine. Our nav ball's changed to show us the relative speed to my target. Give me a short burn so I can just get a little closer and stop. And go. Alright, we overshot a little bit there. But we're going to come within 17 kilometers. That's all right. We're going to warp to here. So not executing this with a tremendous degree of precision. We are brute forcing it a little bit, but it will work surprisingly well. So my target is behind me. So let's go and find it. There's my target right over there. So what I can do, because this is my relative speed between me and my target. And the prograde retrograde indicates, like, if I were to burn here, so this would be retrograde to my target, I would be killing my speed relative to my target and getting closer to matching their own orbit. So let's go and give that a little bit of go. Then, oh, that's away from them. There we go, that's towards them. So if I combine burning towards them with killing motion away from them, you'll notice my prograde will get pulled towards them. I don't want to increase my relative speed too much because eventually I got to burn that off. But there you go. So now I am approaching them. And what I'm going to want to do is get in position over here to burn retrograde to them to kill some of that off. But right now I know I'm going directly towards them because my prograde marker is on there, and most notably, the retrograde marker is on the pink marker that indicates away from them. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit. Now, because we have a difference in orbits right now, and we still do, there's going to be a little bit of drift. But what I can do now is you can push. I always think of it as pushing my retrograde marker. So I'm burning mostly retrograde to kill our velocity relative to each other, because I'm going to want to bring that basically to 0. But I'm doing it in such a way that I'm pushing the retrograde marker on top of the away from direction, which means that on the flip side of the ball, my prograde marker is heading towards my target. So we're currently drifting towards the target. I will speed that up a little bit. Okay, now we're going to burn past each other a little too fast. So there's going to be some pretty heavy retrograde burns here. There we go. So now we're closing it at 11 meters per second, and we're less than 100 meters apart. So now we're closing in at 2.6 meters per second. And I'm going to try to bring our relative motion basically to 0 as close as possible. And we are going to be on the dark side here. I don't know how much power the lights use. Hopefully not too much, because they look awesome. 30 meters apart. 25 meters apart. And let's try to bring the speed right down. There we go, to 0. So now what we can do, always quick save switching ships. Now what I can do is try to put my hatch up top. Hit the brackets to change control over here to Jorny Kerbin. We're going to EVA with Jorny Kerbin from his ship. I don't suppose we can get some cool EVA reports from here, can we? Excellent. We're going to detach. We're going to EV or turn on our backpack suit. We'll turn on our headlights. And we'll just head right back over to this other ship, which currently has an empty command module. And we just grab and board. Beautiful. I'm going to switch my nav ball over to orbital mode. You can also double click to clear target, which is what we do here. And all we're going to do now is we're going to burn retrograde. We don't have a lot of fuel left. And our orbit and the debris orbit was basically the same. So we're basically in exactly the same orbit they were. But most importantly, if I just spend all my fuel burning orbital retrograde, and you can tell by the camera change, is we are clearly coming down. There we go. And I don't want to burn any more than that. I don't want to come in too steep. We've learned our lessons there. And there we have it. We still have some power. I'm going to turn off the SAS. Oh, the lights use a lot of power. So let me go and just detach that. I could also turn off the lights, but I don't need the rear end anymore. And I am facing retrograde. We want surface retrograde, which is the same. We'll just give it a little bit of time warp so that we enter the atmosphere. And there we go. We come in for a landing. We'll have a Journey Kerbin over here. It is dark. There we go. As long as you get the Milky Way, you can see things. There's the 2 different bits of debris. Journey's old ship, plus my other module. Parachute let us know it might not be safe to go and let it go right now. No kidding. We're going at 1900 kilometers, or 1900 meters a second. So we'll just try to stay surface retrograde, not using much power right now. Just increasing the physics warp a little bit until we actually enter the atmosphere. Same thing as I've been doing. And I'll manually try to keep it at surface retrograde, which shouldn't be too hard. Are using a little electric charge to keep the SES going, but that's all right. There we go. We'll kill the time warp. Try to face ourselves correctly here. Got a little bit more weight than before because we do have the probodobinine core plus 4 solar panels to bring home, but that's all right. I wonder if we can just turn off the probodobinine. I suppose if I turned off the reaction wheels, I don't know, the core might still be operational. I'm not sure. Like to save more power. We've got plenty of power to land. I'm not actually concerned about that. I'm just wondering. I don't think there's a way to turn off the probe cores. Whee! You shouldn't do that. It uses more electricity. We've got lots. But running out of electricity is such a bad thing. Because you lose all control of your ship. At that point, you have to hope that the aerodynamic forces really keep you stable. And there's not that much of a guarantee of it here. Whee! So the ablator is being used up a little bit at 1/4 of a point per second. Oh, and growing as we hit thicker air, right? Because we're not slowing down that much right now because we're still in relatively thin air. So as we slam into thicker and thicker and thicker air, there starts to be more heat effects, more ablation. The heat mostly comes from compression of the air, not so much friction. But the end result is exactly the same. And has the rate peaked? Because once that rate of ablation goes away, yeah, there you go, it's going down. That's indicative that we're losing speed faster than we're hitting thicker air. And it's a good amount. And we came in at enough of an angle, we should have plenty of time to burn off all of our speed and safely deploy our parachutes. There is sometimes a tricky part if you come down right on top of mountains. Every now and again, you can discover that you have a really bad day because the mountains can be like 3 or 4 kilometers above the surface of the Earth. Or Kerbin here. Well, the Earth isn't the ground, no matter what planet you're landing on. You know, even one of the moons. And all of a sudden, what you thought was a safe re-entry turns out to be really dangerous. So that's all right. And now that the aerodynamic forces are gone, I'll just get rid of the SAS. And you can see, actually, aerodynamically, we're really stable here, so I probably didn't need to worry about it. But hey, better safe than sorry. Parachute is safe to deploy now. I'm going to wait a little bit longer just to accelerate our return. And there we go. All right, so that's going to be it for the mission. What I might do between episodes here, I might go and rescue another couple of missions over there, and just rescue a couple more Kerbinauts to pad out our roster, get a little bit more money so that we'll be able to upgrade a few more of our buildings. And I really do want to go and complete more of these missions. We're probably, almost certainly going to land on a planet in the next episode. In fact, maybe I don't even need it to rescue any more. Maybe I'll just go ahead and do that directly. We are going to land just over 6 meters per second, which I believe is safe. Well, we know our command module can handle, I think it's 12 or 14. I think the heat shield can handle a fair amount. I mean, it's a pretty, simple component. Oh, and there's the touchdown with 300 meters above sea level to go. So we'll cover the vessel, complete that quest, that contract, get some money, and this Kerbal gets added to our roster of astronauts over in our astronaut complex. Right over there, Journey, available for work. Lost 1 Kerbal. He's killed in action. Poor Jebediah. We have almost 500,000 Kerbal bucks in the bank, although that goes really fast. A little one upgrade here and there, poof, just gone. Thanks for watching. See you next time.